Today, we're going to take you inside a place most of us will never see, a women's shelter. We're going to piece together the stories of the women who live there, but we're going to do it using a really unique source.
Okay, so let's dive in. We're not working from a pre-written article or a documentary here. Our entire explainer is built from raw, anonymous data. And I really want to stress this, these are not just numbers on a spreadsheet. Every single row in this dataset represents a real woman, a real life, and a story that absolutely deserves to be heard. So that's our mission for the next few minutes. We're going to be data detectives. We're going to ask, what story do these numbers tell? What can they really reveal about the lives of these women seeking refuge?
First things first, let's get our bearings. What exactly is this place?
These shelters are called Daro Aman. It's an Urdu term that translates directly to House of Safety. And that's exactly what they are, government-run facilities that are designed to be a sanctuary, a place of protection for women in crisis.
Okay, so now let's look at the data to figure out who is walking through the doors of this House of Safety. What does the profile of a resident actually look like?
So the data tells us the average age is 29. But honestly, that number kind of hides the real story. Because when you dig in, you see girls as young as 12, 13 years old, all the way up to women in their 50s, even their 60s. That is a huge range of life experience, all finding refuge under the same roof.
Now, this chart, wow, this reveals a really profound vulnerability. A staggering 62%. That's more than 6 out of every 10 women in the shelter cannot read or write. Think about that. This lack of education is such a critical piece of their story, It limits their options and their independence long before a crisis even begins.
And this right here, this is the direct result of that. A massive 83% of the residents are unemployed. You can see the chain reaction, right? Limited education leads to limited economic power, and that creates a deep, often dangerous dependency.
So all this vulnerability, it builds to the toughest part of this data. Why? Why did these women have to flee their homes in the first place? I mean, just take a second and really think about it. What would have to happen in your life to make you leave everything behind and seek refuge with complete strangers? Well, the data gives us some very clear and very stark answers.
And here's the most crucial thing to understand. We are not talking about minor disagreements. Looking at the top reasons here, that first tallest bar is for escalating violence and a direct threat to life. The next ones show women who are literally thrown out with nowhere to go or who are fleeing severe abuse and forced marriage. These are life or death decisions.
This quote gives a voice to that data. It's the human translation of that first bar we just saw. A simple, chilling statement that echoes through these records. The situation had gotten so bad that staying home was no longer an option for survival.
And this second quote captures another devastating reality we see over and over in the dataset. For many, this shelter isn't one of several options, it's the only one. They've been physically kicked out of their homes and left with absolutely nothing.
So escape becomes necessary. But how do they do it? What path did they take to get to the doors of the Darul Aman?
This slide is just incredibly revealing. On the one hand, some women did try to find other solutions. They went to community elders, they tried to file legal cases, they stayed with family, but look at the most common path. They didn't seek any other help at all. That suggests this profound sense of isolation, a feeling that there was no one else they could turn to.
And how did they even learn a place like this existed? Well, the data shows a mix of pathways. Many are referred through official channels, like the police, but just as many find out through their community, just simple word of mouth. And a significant number learn about it through media or NGOs, which shows that public awareness campaigns are really working.
So once they arrive and those doors close behind them, what happens next? Is it just a roof over their heads? The data shows it's much, much more than that.
This isn't just about survival. It is all about recovery. They get legal aid for their court cases, medical care for their injuries, and crucial psychological counseling. They also get skills training to help them find work, and even education and childcare. It's a holistic system for rebuilding a life from scratch. So when you put all these data points together, from the demographics, to the reasons for fleeing, to the services they get, a very clear picture emerges.
The House of Safety is more than just its name. For the women in this dataset, and hundreds like them, it is the only viable option they have in the face of mortal danger, abandonment, and abuse. It is, quite literally, a lifeline.
And that leaves us with one final important question. A shelter provides immediate safety, a place to heal and regroup. But what happens after? What is the long-term solution? The data shows us the problem, but that next step, well, that's a question for all of us.